Annelise Nielsen always joins us on a Monday night to talk about what is happening in the United States. Joining us now from DC. I think daylight saving ended there recently, so it's an hour later, earlier, who knows. She joins us now to talk about, among other things...
Earlier, I know.
Oh, God love you. There we go. Now, let's talk about, of course, presidential politics. It's kind of the only real focus that Australians seem to have. Joe Biden was able to get more than $1 trillion in infrastructure to get passed through the parliament. Now, he didn't get it with all the Democrats because some refused to back it because they want more money spent on social infrastructure. Instead, some Republicans helped get it over the line. That didn't impress Donald Trump very much. But while people have been focused on the 1.6 trillion bit, does this actually now give Joe Biden a record to run on? He can start to point about what is the purpose of his administration?
It's finally something that they can show that they are getting stuff done on the Hill, because this has taken a very long time. And at the end of the day, it's not quite that 1.6 trillion yet. It's only going to be around 550 billion in infrastructure, which I know is a huge number, but in the context of a country of 320 million, superpower of the world, it's not as big as they would have liked. You can definitely say that. So they are going to be able to put the shovel in the ground for things like infrastructure, like bridges, key utilities, things like water, but that doesn't mean that they aren't really hampered on a lot of things that they promised as well. And this is where the social spending stuff is coming to a head. But this is where we're seeing a huge division between progressives and the moderates and the Democrats. And don't forget, this infrastructure only was passed because Republicans threatened to break the deadlock and Republicans crossed the floor in the lower house. So they've still got a lot of work to do to keep those progressives on side.
Yeah, certainly something that, again, Donald Trump was raging about, and no doubt there could be, because of the perpetual election cycle, primaries, that means those people might not actually end up representing the Republican Party, but we'll wait and see where things go. Here is what Joe Biden had to say upon the passing of the legislation. I think if it was Barack Obama, he would have referred to it as a big effing deal.
A once-in-a-generation investment that's going to create millions of jobs, modernize our infrastructure, our roads, our bridges, our broadband, a whole range of things, to turn the climate crisis into an opportunity. And it puts us on a path to win the economic competition of the 21st century that we face with China and other large countries and the rest of the world.
Now, Annelise, what I find particularly interesting about this is that obviously it's government money, but the United States is a wildly rich country that can also have a lot of poverty inside it. And anyone, if you've visited, let alone lived there for a little while, you start to see the obvious weirdness of the United States, where you would assume that these companies that are worth trillions of dollars would be trying to modernise the infrastructure of the country that comes around them. So why is it left to the government to do what you would think that the stock market that's, at 36,000 points, there's, money in every hill, but you don't seem to see it in the streets of the United States, do you?
Well, in a libertarian country, the government's designed to do as little as possible. And so these trillion-dollar companies, they make their business out of making sure that they get in the middle of a lot of this. And so you go to cities and a lot of the best roads are toll roads, and that suits most people, even if there isn't public transport option otherwise. They just kind of consider it normal. There is a real level of poverty in the US that you wouldn't tolerate in most parts of Australia. And people tend to be more comfortable with that. There is still a sense of community in a lot of these places. They've lived like this a very long time, and they tend to be smaller places, and so it's easier to get around. But it's a cultural thing as well. People are happy not having much, but knowing it's their own and that they get to do it the way that they like. And that's nothing to sneeze at either. So it's a whole different world over here. But for the infrastructure, the thing that really gets me the most is water. You just think, God, at the end of the day, you've got to have clean water. But so many of these towns across the country have issues with lead. And that's one of the things that's going to be fixed. Hopefully.
And that's the thing, where I think that if there was more conversation about the practical rather than the theoretical, the political and the headline, then the politics would be slightly different. But apparently, according to latest polls, his approval rating's at 38%, Harris's is at 28%. Make it very clear, Hillary 2.0 is not going to win in 2024. They might have to find a way to keep the corpse going.